And I'm Dane Young from UGAsports.com with my friend Jim Donnan, who you hear on this network often. And one of my favorite things is tapping into Coach's network of media and coaching friends. And Coach, in this case, it's both of those.
Yeah, hey, one of my favorite players. People don't realize how old I am, but I coached this guy for a little bit, and then had a chance to follow his career in a lot of different ways. But Mack Brown, who right now is the second winningest coach in college football with 253 wins. He might catch Saban this year, I don't know, but he's really bearing down on him. And Hall of Fame coach, just Hall of Fame person. Great to have you on with us, Mack.
Coach, thank you so much for having me on. You know how much I love you, and you were really young when you coached me. So but we were both just puppies. We just didn't realize it.
Right. So, just starting out here, just for our fans, that we have a lot of people on Rivals. You were retired there at Texas, went to work for ESPN, had a great career there. I enjoyed watching you give the insight, but then this opportunity came up at your age. What was it that got the juices flowing? And it's obvious you really got it humming now, but what made the difference for you? Why did you do this?
Well, Coach, we spent 16 years, and like your sweet wife, Mary, my sweet wife, Sally, says, that's 4 presidential terms. So that's a long when you start looking at it. And then our dear friend Spike Dykes, who we lost a few years ago, put everything into perspective so much. He stayed 13 years at Texas Tech. And I said, Coach, why'd you leave? He said, about every year you lose 10% of your support. And I stayed 13 years, so you do the math. So I think it was time for us to leave after 16 years. And then we enjoyed, I really enjoyed TV. I worked with ABC and ESPN, and I was doing Friday night games and getting up early and flying to Bristol and spending all day watching college football, and wasn't sure I'd ever coach again. And we had a few opportunities, and Sally and I decided we weren't going to go unless we could win, and we weren't going to go unless we wanted to live there. Those were 2 things at our age. And Coach, when they put me in the Hall of Fame, I asked Steve Hatchell and Archie Manning, why do you wait a year before you have the ceremony? And he said, you need to go tell everybody thank you that helped you get in the Hall of Fame, players, coaches, staff. And so we went to Texas, we went to Appalachian State, we went to Tulane. But when we came back to Chapel Hill, where you coached, we saw all of our ex-players, and it was a lot of fun. And they kept talking about what I had meant in their life. And remember when you got on me, and remember when you hugged my neck, and remember when you came to my dad's funeral. And we walked out that night, and Sally said, this is the happiest I've seen you since you walked out at Texas. This is who you are. This is what you do. And you love these players, and you're part of their lives, and you that's what you like best. So she said, I'll make you a deal. If the Hawaii job ever comes open, you can take it. If a job in the Bahamas comes open, I said, sweetie, they don't even have football. She said, we'll start a team, Bahama Iguanas. And she said, but if Chapel Hill ever comes open, I'll come back here, and you have my permission to take this job. Because I told her I wouldn't take one again unless she wanted to be there. And then Larry Fedora was coaching. He had a 5-year contract, Coach. We never thought it would come up. So I pretty much said, that's it. But then they made a change. Bubba Cunningham, the athletics director, called me as I was walking off the set at ESPN's Who's In. I had just picked Oklahoma as one of the 4 teams. And somebody said, you just made everybody mad in the state of Texas. And I said, I've done that before. So that's no big deal. They've been mad at me. They're used to that routine. And then Bubba called and said, hey, will you be our coach? Like you, I've been around long enough. I said, I'm not interviewing for a job, Bubba. I'm past all that. And he said, no, we want you to be the coach. And Sally was in Austin. I picked up the phone and called her, and I said, you said Hawaii, you said the Bahamas, and you said Chapel Hill. Well, Chapel Hill just called and offered us the job. And like your sweet bride, Sally, on the phone said, she went silent for a minute. She said, let's do this thing. And the next day we were on a plane at 3:00 in the afternoon, headed to Chapel Hill for a press conference on Tuesday. And 2 years later, here we are.
Well, it's certainly a monumental change for facility wise, everything you've done at this point. And, being out of coaching, how are you able to get such a good staff together, among which there's two people that coached here at Georgia, John Lilly and your offensive line coach. So how did that come about? Did you keep some guys in mind, or you knew what you wanted to do, or how did that work out? Because, coming after 5 years, it's kind of tough to get that staff together, but you got an all-star staff.
Well, Coach, like you've coached so long, you're in the Hall of Fame, you got guys that you like. And then when you're out watching games every week on TV, you're seeing other guys that I saw Jay Bateman at Army. I went up there to speak. I watched him coach in spring practice. I watched them take Oklahoma to overtime, and Oklahoma didn't have a player on their team Army didn't have a player on their team that could have played for Oklahoma. And then I coached I did his bowl game against San Diego State when Penny was a great running back and they shut him down. So it was an easy thought for me to think, if Jay Bateman, we weren't very good here, but if Jay Bateman can take lesser players in Army and win, then that's what I need. And then I kept watching the offenses and trying to figure out what's the best offense, what's the best fit. Well, you and I watched Mike Leach and Cliff Kingsbury, and we watched the quote, run and shoot, air raid offense. And I always thought it was really, really good, but I thought you need to run the ball. And then all of a sudden I see Lincoln Riley with a power running game and the air raid offense, because he was kind of raised under Tuberville and Leach and those guys. So I started looking to find that guy. And I called Cliff and I called Mike and I said, who are your guys? And I called Lincoln. And Phil Longo's name kept coming up from his Sam Houston days, where he was in the playoffs all the time. So he was at Ole Miss. So that was the guy that I targeted for our offense. And you talked about Stacy Searles and John Lilly. I had Stacy at Texas. He coached with John at Georgia. John, the staff had just been let go at the Cleveland Browns. I needed a tight end coach. And coach, I've tried to get guys that fit this place, but also have recruited this area. Stacy Searles coached 7 years at Appalachian State. He was at Georgia. So he recruited all of North Carolina, Georgia, and some of Florida. John Lilly, he was a college player in this state at Guilford College. He's a graduate. And then he went to Florida State. And then he was at Georgia recruiting these areas. So guys like that. Lonnie Galloway's recruited 15 years in this state. He's our receiver coach. We got him from Louisville. Jay Bateman, our defensive coordinator, he's coached in this, or recruited in this state 15 years. Tommy Thigpen was here. He played for me, and Dre Bly was out of coaching, and he's come in and doing a great job. And there's actually 8 guys on this staff that played for me. 6 of them played in the NFL. So we pulled a lot of what we knew from the past that have been loyal to me back in here, that love this place. And then we just tried to add some guys from Texas that I worked with, and some guys that I saw over the last 5 years.
Mack, one of the things with the offenses that you're talking about is typically if they have a quarterback that can do things the right way, that's what really gets it going. You had that when you were at Texas, obviously with Vince Young. It looks like Sam Howell's got every opportunity to potentially be a first-round pick in the future. How has developing and coaching quarterbacks changed in that regard?
Dayne, you go back and look at the college football playoffs last year, all of them had great quarterbacks. You look at the NFL, the ones that got down to the end all had great quarterbacks. They're franchise quarterbacks. So we always talked about defense and kicking game. It's still obviously very, very important, but you can't win it all anymore unless you can score points. You got to score points. Defensive coaches are talking about now, if we can hold them to a field goal, that's a win. God, if anybody ever got a turnover, that's unbelievable, man. That changes games. So it's just changed. The game's changed. So you're beating people now 48-28 or 48-35 and feeling pretty good about it, where we used to want to fire the defensive coordinator right after the game if he gave up that many points. So the game's different. And you've got to have that quarterback. So 2 things happened with Sam Howell. He was committed to Florida State. So when we came here, he flipped from Florida State to us, and that gave us credibility with all the other highly recruited players in the state. because if we were good enough for Sam to come, then we were good enough for other kids. So that started the strength of our in-state recruiting. Secondly, he's real good. And he started as a freshman, and he beat South Carolina in the opener, which I didn't think we had any chance to do. Then he beats Miami at home, and they were probably the best team in the Coastal at that time. So he got out with instant credibility, and now he just keeps getting better and better and better. So that allows us to recruit other outstanding young quarterbacks that are all in place now. We've just got to start looking at who's that next guy to step up, and they're going to have big shoes to fill.
You know, I had a chance to watch your team play so many times, but we also talked a lot during the season last year. It's like a season nobody ever had experienced before. It was like every day was like something coming up, but just little credibility for your players and staff, what they had to go through during this COVID year. And now knowing that you're going to be able to finally start recruiting again face to face. But what was your plan throughout that day to day? How did it work? What were you trying to do?
Coach, we tried to get short-term answers and look at the big picture. The only thing that was certain about last year in sports and in our lives really was uncertainty. When I really thought we bring our team back June 12th, we have to bring them back in pieces. Let's bring 15 back and test them and see if that works. Then we'll bring another 15 the next week. Then we'll bring another 15 and start your off-season workouts. Then when the Big Ten and the Pac-12 decided not to play, I figured we were through. Because with the major conferences, you had the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12. And what I was told, if any of the three decided not to play, then none of us would play. So I figured we weren't going to play. So the first thing you have to do is be very transparent with your coaches and your players and tell them, I don't know if we're going to play or not. I know we're not going to play if you're not healthy. So don't worry about the health part of it. And don't listen to, it's about money. If you're not healthy, I'm not coaching and you're not going to play 100%. So let's throw that out. Secondly, you're either going to have a fall where you play, or you're going to have spring this fall and play next fall. So you're going to be playing either way. And college football's gotten like training for the Olympics. You have to work out every day anyway. These kids don't take time off. They want to get stronger and be more flexible. So then we just told them, we'll give you an update every time we get one. And then we had a little spike. We had 3.5 weeks with nothing, Coach. And then we had a spike. And the first guy got a positive on Friday. And by Monday, they had shut us down because we had enough that it looked like that the stuff spread so fast. So we shut it down for a week. And then we came back and I told them, I can go play golf. I can go fish. I'm fine if you don't want to play. Because some of them went to a restaurant for dinner. It's not like that's something that's awful for college kids, but they just didn't believe they'd catch it. But if you want to play, you're going to have to straighten it out. And after my meeting, the older players got with the younger ones and said, man, this may be our last year. So come on, man. If you don't want to play, leave. And then we gave kids a chance to opt out. And then they keep their scholarship. And but we only had one guy miss a game because of a positive test after that. So the credit goes to the medical staff, and the credit goes to our assistant coaches, obviously, but also our players, because they're the ones that stepped up and said, let's make this work. And then our Charlotte game was canceled, and the administration did a good job of getting Western Carolina later in the year because it was just craziness all the time. But after Charlotte canceled us on Thursday morning after practice, we're sitting there trying to find a game for the next weekend because we were open. So we called 30 teams and nobody could work it out. And then the last thing was the uncertainty of you got tested 3 days a week. So you didn't know if your offensive coordinator was going to have a positive on Saturday morning and not be able to coach the game. You didn't know if Sam Howell was going to be out. I mean, Coach, until you got that training report Friday or Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, you didn't know who was going to play in the game. So it's just so much unusual stress because we're all so routine driven in this business, and we had no routine. That's what made it so difficult. And I remember the time this summer, okay, we're not supposed to be around each other. We have to wear a mask. How do you practice? We thought at that time touching a ball might spread it. How are we going to play a game when you can't touch the ball? I mean, what about a helmet? If the helmet's on, do we have to have a shield? Because then you can't breathe. And if we can't breathe on each other, how are we not going to have a shield and have linemen this close to each other, blocking each other and slobbering on each other and throwing each other down and have pileups? How's this stuff going to work? How do you eat? What about a locker room? What about showers? What about meetings? What about team meetings? What about position meetings? What about staff meetings? Because at that time, everything was on Zoom. So there were so many questions that had to be answered. And I give the presidents and the athletics directors that work through this stuff and were patient enough in the Big 12, the ACC and the SEC, and the commissioners, all the credit in the world for being patient enough and asking enough questions and trusting the science so it could get us where we could play.
Well, you certainly had an unbelievable year when you look at things that happened, and Dayne's going to ask you about your two backs here in a minute. But the thing that was impressive to me was you had some guys that missed the bowl game, but it's your big, I mean, it really first time in a long time that North Carolina's played in a big bowl like that. How many years ago has it been since they've been to I don't know, you can tell me that, but the fact that your guys just said, hey, the ones that are going to go, we're going to play, and you played Texas A&M's ass off, and everybody knows how close they were to being in the playoffs. So you had to feel good about, even though you lost the game, that your players went down there, and it had to be a good experience for you.
It was, Coach. It's been 50 years since Carolina's been to a bowl game like that. And I was surprised that the guys opted out. I thought the Orange Bowl would be big enough that they wouldn't. And then three of the guys opted out, and then another one practiced with us for a week, and then he opted out. And that's okay. I get it. It's their choice. I just wasn't prepared for it. So right now we're having exit interviews after our spring game on Saturday. And one of the questions is, if we're not in the playoffs, are you going to opt out of the bowl game? So we need to know, and that's okay if you decide to, but don't catch us off guard where we're not prepared to have somebody ready to go in your position. And we'll have more depth next year, so it'll help better. But I was not only proud that the guys played so hard and had a chance to win late in the fourth quarter, but also in the locker room, Coach, you know this better than anybody. I wanted to see if they were happy to be there, if they were proud of themselves that they had a close loss, or if they were really disappointed. And they were really disappointed they didn't win the game. So I thought that was a great sign for us moving forward, because they're not satisfied with just coming close and losing. And we told them we lost to Notre Dame in the fourth quarter. We lost to Texas A&M in the fourth quarter. They were number 2 and number 5 at the time we played them. We beat number 10 Miami soundly. So you want to be a top 10 team, you have to beat top 10 teams. And that's what you've got to do. So those are facts. It is what it is. So let's grow up. Let's get more depth. Let's get stronger. Let's get tougher and more confident about winning in the fourth quarter.
You know, Mack, one thing I'm kind of curious about, and you alluded to it right when we got you on the call, your relationship with Coach Donnan, because we like having him on our team, but I can't help but wonder, is he kind of lobbying for a spot on your staff right now?
Jim, it's like he's got a spot on my staff. I talk to Coach all the time, and I'm telling you, since I've been coaching, he and I have constant chats. And it's just about stuff. There's things, Dayne, that come up all the time. And some of it you've dealt with before, some of it you're not, but I trust Coach enough that I have about 5 people that I talk to that I trust, and I bounce things off of them, and he's one of them. And I feel certain, number one, he's going to tell me the truth whether I like it or not, and that's important with people you're talking to. And number 2, he's been there, done that. He's seen about everything he can have. He's been in my spot, and it's so unique for head coaches because their lives are so different. Their family lives are so different that you need to talk to people who have lived your life. And I can ask him, what would you have done differently? Tell me what you did you like, but tell me what you would have done that you didn't do. And he's thrown out so many things to me that I said, that makes sense. I never thought about that. And that's what makes it fun.
Well, I appreciate that, but Mac knows that I'm just down here in the dungeon here, and I don't leave much, and I read all this stuff on the internet. And I try to keep from sending him to everything, but he says keep sending it, so I do. But it's good to have that kind of dialogue. But there's a couple of things that have come up now that all the fans are interested in now, and I'd like to get your take first of all on the transfer portal and how it's going to affect your team as far as projecting recruiting. What's your take on it? It is what it is. You got to make the best of it, but what's your plan?
Coach, roster management is now a disaster. If you can imagine, the NCAA gave every player on your team an extra year. So it's hard to even figure out what year they are. So all the freshmen that were freshmen last year are freshmen again this next year with all the ones that you brought in. So you've got 2 classes of freshmen. And how in the heck is that going to work out 4 years from now? And then secondly, they've said that you have to be at the 85 cap next year. So some people are going to sign 5 guys. Some people may sign 10 because you've got a cap. And that's really going to hurt the 22 class because a lot of those guys won't get scholarships, and that's unfair to them, in my opinion. Right now, there were about 1,900 guys this year that went into the portal in football. I think 300 or 400 of them have found a place to go. Only 25%. So you've got 75% of those kids that are in the portal right now looking for a place to go that don't have a scholarship. And these are all scholarship players. And if they don't find one, they left their scholarship because they might have been mad they were a second teamer to better themselves, and now they're going to be paying their way to school. I don't like that. The fact that when you transfer, there's a lot less chance that you graduate. This encourages young people not to stay and be a second teamer and fight to be a first teamer. I'm mad at my coach. I'm going to leave. Now, maybe the backup quarterback that's a senior that's not going to get to play, it's a great idea for him. I would have rather seen us keep the same rule we had, that you had to lay out for a year unless you got the appeal. And part of the appeal process could have become, I wasn't getting to play and I wanted to play at another place, so that's why I left. And all the coaches agreed to it. That's what's best for kids. If we've got a guy here that can't play and he wants to transfer, we're encouraging him to do that. Get your degree first, but we're going to help you find a place. We're going to call. We're going to be really honest with you and your family, and we're going to call that place. We're going to send video, and we're going to try to help you get placed. But I don't like the fact that one of our coaches said the other day, I'm afraid to yell at a kid anymore. I yell at him, he may walk out and leave. And that, so it's just different. So I understand the concept. It does work for some, but I don't think the overall concept works. Like right now, these kids can transfer till July 1st. So if you had 3 running backs leave July 1st, you're going to have trouble filling a team on August 6th when your team comes back. And then next year it'll be May 1st. But I just don't like the way we're doing it. We're encouraging young people not to stay and fight and compete. We're encouraging young people not to overcome adversity because it's easier to leave. And then it's not working when only 25% have found a place to go at this point.
Mac, I feel a little connected to your program after my weekend last week, and I was in Chapel Hill. I went to a wedding in Raleigh. I stayed at the Carolina Inn. I walked right past your stadium. I didn't stay because it was raining and I had the wedding to go to. I guess I should have stayed and just come over for dinner at that point, but didn't do that. What I wanted to know, though, is that on my way from Athens to Chapel Hill, I obviously see the signs for Clemson right off I-85 in Anderson. And I know that's the titan of the ACC in football. When you prepare in the offseason or regular season, is that the standard you go against, or can you even think that far ahead?
Oh, absolutely. And number one, you went to a wet wedding because it rained the whole game. I mean, and then beautiful Friday. It's beautiful Sunday. I said, come on, man. Don't rain during the game. Just give me a break. And we're kind of in a drought. It hadn't rained around here for a month. So bless the heart of the couple that got married. I hope it was indoors. We couldn't play ours indoor, or I would have on Saturday. Yeah, Dabo's done an amazing job. They're the standard. If you really look at it, Dayne, there's 4 or 5 that are in the college football playoffs every year, and the rest of us are all trying to catch up. And I'm not sure that's great for college football, but it's what it is. And we all know who those are. So we talk about the standard. We talk about the got to win the Coastal, which is our side of the division, with the other being the Atlantic and the ACC. Then you've got to probably beat Clemson to win the ACC. And if you do that, you're most likely going to be in the playoff. But we have not been hesitant to talk about how great Clemson has been. We fight with them in recruiting. That didn't happen when we first got here. Now we're in battles. In fact, mostly we recruit against Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Penn State. So we're in some strong battles. But Coach, and I'll tell you, we've coached some really good players and had great teams, and we've coached some really average players and had really bad teams. So we're trying to get good players, because the ones that are winning have great players, and that's what Clemson's done. And Dabo and I've been friends for many years. When he took the job, he brought his whole staff out and spent a week with us at Texas. Woody McCorvey's his right-hand man, and Woody and I have been friends since his high school days down in Pensacola. So it is what it is. They're really, really good. We had them down to a point 2 years ago. People asked me why I went for 2. I said, best team usually wins the longer the game goes. They were the best team. We had 5 over there that were out on defense. I did not want to go overtime. So we were trying to make a play and put pressure on them, see if we could win at the end.
Yeah, I like that call. I mean, if you'd had a pregame meal that morning and asked somebody to get down to one play to beat Clemson, you'd have said, when can we play? That's for sure. Just finishing up here, Mack, going into next year, looking at ahead, if I'm a high school recruit and my family's talking to you, what's your timetable? What you looking at? You look young. I watched you out there Saturday. You look like you're just enjoying it, even though in the rain. That's your team. You're building your program and your image. You're only as old as you think you are. I mean, I feel like I could coach. I'm in the 4th quarter, but what's your plan there? How is it right now?
Coach, I realized when I started looking at what might be the end at Texas, because I got tired after 30 straight years, it's not healthy. Because if you're thinking about quitting, then you're not doing as good a job. And I use the word maintain, which I'll never use again for building a program and trending and making progress. But I had my 5 years out, and I really missed it. And all the things that I got tired of, I'm not letting bother me now. I am having fun. I'm saying exactly what I think to the players, to our staff. I love building a team. It's so much fun. This piece over here, and where does he fit, and how's he doing, and can we bring him up, and we got to get depth here, and our defensive line needs to look all alike. They need to be bigger. We're not doing a great job there. Who's going to be the next quarterback? We got to get speed on the field. And people asked me the other day, is it more important to have a consistent player or a great player on the field? And I said, I want a consistent player that's great, period. I mean, it's not complicated. So I'm having fun. And I'm really, I've gotten up with a purpose every day for the last 2 years. And my purpose is to do well for this school and to help these coaches and these young guys have a better life after they get out of here. And I think if you don't have a purpose, it's hard every morning when you get up, because you feel tired and you step too late and you don't get exercise. And I'm walking every day. I'm trying to lose that COVID-10 that I've got that's around my waist for sure. But I'm telling kids right now, I'm going to coach as long as I'm productive here. And that's going to be the key. I thought Roy Williams said something very unique when he retired a couple of weeks ago. He said, I don't feel like right now I'm the best person for this place because it's just not working like I want it to work. And I thought that was very unique. Number one, that he would say that. Number two, that he would feel that because he's one of the best ever and won 3 national championships. But I think, Coach, that's kind of the way I feel. As long as I'm the best person for this job, I'm going to be doing it. And I know I played golf every day when I was out. It's not as much fun when you play every day. And when you get a little bit better, it's still not very good. And I fished to a point that I was hoping I wouldn't catch one because you'd have to take it off the line. So I've fished and golfed enough. I can do it now every now and then and have fun with it. But this is fun for me. I got my faith, I got my family, and I got this football family. And that's all I got. And it's a lot of fun for me. I feel like I'm a better coach than I've ever been, but I'm definitely having more fun. I never had the fun that I should have had in coaching. And I remember Coach Bill Dooley, your friend that we lost a few years ago, we asked he and Marie one time after he got out of coaching, what would you do different? And she said, we would have had more fun. We would have enjoyed coaching more. There's always problems and there's always another job and there's always issues and you're worried about getting fired and somebody's mad at you all the time. And really and truly, she's right, but I'm going to have fun this time and I'm going to make it work.
Well, you're definitely making it work. And I know the rest of the coaches in the league are ready for you to go on and go fishing again. But it's been our pleasure to have you. I know you got a schedule that's really organized and you got a lot going. And our fans are going to enjoy, and the Carolina fans will enjoy what you had to say. But we'll stay in touch, and we appreciate you being on with us, Coach.
Well, thanks, Dayne. Thanks, Coach, for having me on, and we'll do it again.